All right. Hello. Happy Saturday. I got some time to do a stream. I even bought myself like one of the good beers at the like in Norway. You can't buy like you can buy relatively like it's like 4.5% alcohol you can buy in the grocery store. But anything stronger than that, you have to go to a special place called the Wine Monopoly. So if you want to buy wine or anything like that, you have to go there. But also for like decent good beer. So sometimes I buy that on a Saturday, and I did that today. Uh, Um, but I also played around with something yesterday because I don't know, I got like restless, and I was looking at this Mobx Lite thing that we've been playing around with, and I was looking at the documentation. I was reflecting on like what am I trying to do with this project, and initially it was to make like observation transparent so that you don't have to explicitly make your components observers; they just are. But then we were also reflecting on like, why do you use classes? Why don't you use functional? But like most people using Mobx uses classes, object oriented. And like, what is the goal of this project? Is it like to convert people from classes to functions? That's like a big sell. And I don't think that's a good thing. I think it's better to take what is kind of the status quo and just make it even simpler. So I played around with like I was looking at classes like how can you avoid like having this constructor where you have to do like reactive this or like make auto observable this, um, and how you have to like uh, what's it called, like exclude certain props that's not going to be reactive, and so on and so on. And then I started thinking like we have this proxy in Mobx Lite that we use for making sure that everything's read only. And then I thought, what if that proxy would actually be like the thing that connects React to your state management? So by default, your state management doesn't have anything to do with reactivity. It's when you actually provide it through this proxy to your React application that your React application, by the very fact of accessing properties, lazily makes your state management reactive. And so many pieces came together doing that. So I thought I would kind of talk through it, and then I thought we could try like testing it a little bit. Mm. So, um, so the reactivity is like transparent. So there's no make auto observable for every class or observer for every component. So it's like truly transparent. Like we say that Mobx has transparent reactivity, and it kind of has in the sense that you're not explicitly like setting state, like you're just using the JavaScript API, and that's what makes it transparent. But practically, it's not transparent. It's on in your face all the time. So we fixed like observe for every component, but we didn't like fix make auto observable and the stuff related to that. But we've done that here. And then we have like transparent protection. So you don't even have to think about protection. It's just there. By the fact of providing your state management or like your root class through this proxy to React, it will both lazily make your state reactive based on what you access, but it will also make sure that if React tries to actually change one of these properties, you're not allowed to do that. And then we have data management. So it also has like core mutation utilities for modern data management with React, which is something that external state stores doesn't have. They don't have data management, which is something that's really important to have. I think there's been so much progress on it in React itself that it's worth making available. So it's basically the same thing. Like you install it the same way. You activate like the bubble or SWC plugin, and then you're kind of off to the races. The thing is, like, to be able to do this, you have to use classes. We can't make this work with just functions. And the thing for me with classes, like I work with classes every day, and it's like we talked about a lot here. It's like, it's not like one is universally good and the other one's universally bad. There's good and bad parts to using functions and using classes, but the status quo of Mobx is using classes. So here you just define your state. Like the hello world doesn't quite kind of capture the cool part of this, but now you just define your classes. You don't think about reactivity at all when you do state management, which is kind of a mind-blowing thing in and of itself. But when you expose that to, oh, by the way, I have a typo in hello world. But yeah, so this is kind of part of the thing. So when you expose it to React, that's when you kind of create this reactive proxy. So what happens here is that when the counter component actually accesses the count property, this proxy is going to check, is this property actually like an observable box, which is like an internal thing in Mobx? And if it isn't, it's going to make it an observable box. And that means that when this class does this.count as we continue, it's going to point to that actual box. And it's kind of funny, right? You kind of think that everything needs to be reactive by default, but it wouldn't matter. Like if you were to like increase this count many times inside your state management without any component accessing it, it would just work when you actually do access it, because then you get the current count and then you're observing it. So any new change to the count will actually make the components reconcile. So yeah, and then when you use the proxy, any method becomes is bound to the class. So now you can always reference methods like this. This is something you have to explicitly set as an option when you're using make auto observable. Yeah, and it doesn't matter how complex this is. Like this can be like a nested, like crazy, like it doesn't matter. It's just that very like simple concept that whatever property you access, it's going to check that property. Is it an actual observable? And if not, it's going to make it observable. At least that's the idea. And then the mental model, blah, blah, blah. And then reimagined, like truly transparent. Traditionally with Mobx, you have to use decorators or functions to configure the reactivity of your state management. With Mobx Lite, we flip this around and let React tell your state management what needs to be reactive. With the automatic observation of components, there is only one single place in your code that you see reference to the reactive system, where you expose your state to React using reactive. So it's kind of like you have your state management over here, you have React over here, and there's no like reactivity primitives used in any parts of it. But then at the exact point where you maybe use a context provider to expose like the root state to React, that's where you just expose it as reactive. So you kind of initiating the reactive system there. And then there's like no actions. Mobx Lite has no actions. It does not need to. The reactive proxy used to expose your state management to React will not only lazily reactify your state management, it also prevents any mutations happening directly from React. All class methods called from React are bound to the class instance. And then a problem would actually occur if we were to use reactions, because reactions require reactivity. So if you were to like create a reaction inside your state management and your state management was dependent on that very reaction, it wouldn't actually work because nothing's reactive. So it would at least become unreliable. But from the get-go, we said like reactions are bad because they create indirection in your code. which I described as indirection is bad because it allows one line of your code, think about like a method that does a state change, to implicitly affect some other line of code. So you're kind of reading your method, and then you're doing a state change, and there's no indication in the code that, oh, in this other file, line 32 is actually going to run now. Like, that's indirection. So it's very, very bad for readability, but it's a good mechanism, right? Because it's what allows like computed, and it's what allows like observers to work and everything. But we don't expose reactions. So it's kind of funny, like your state management isn't reactive. It's this proxy that React talks to the state management through that makes your state management reactive. It's very interesting. Yes. And then we have, so creating state, you just build up your state. And then when you expose your state to React, you just use reactive, and then you pass it as a prop, you expose it on context, doesn't matter. And as I said, lazily makes properties reactive when accessed by React, prevents any mutation happening from React. All class methods called from React are bound to the class instance. And these are things that you want. And the really cool thing is that when you typically would make auto observable, you have to explicitly say, oh, these properties I don't want to be observable. Maybe like you're just in your constructor, you're like using some environment stuff or something. And then you have to say, oh, by the way, this property, I don't want that to be observable. But here this just works, because if you were to use something that it's not about it being reactive or not, it's about it being consumable or not. So in the same scenario where you kind of have a constructor, you're getting some environment stuff in there, you would make it private, right? And since it's private, React can't access it. Like, it can't technically access it at runtime, but you would have a type error, right? Because it's private. So by the sheer fact of making things private, they can't be observable. And you don't want them to be observable. That's the whole point. Like, everything that's public that can be accessed by React, that's what you want to be observable. And everything you don't want to be observable is private to the state management. It's very interesting. Yeah, and then we have like the data queries. That's like the same thing. And this is like really important to have. It's very hard to adopt when you have something like React query. And then you choose external state management, and now you have to do all your data fetching like manually, and deal with all these different states and using suspense and everything. It becomes becomes a lot to orchestrate. And then it just explains like subscriptions and explicit states and all of this stuff. But it's basically just reactive. You have query and you have mutation. So again, this is like, I wired this together this morning, and kind of rewrote the docs to kind of get a feel for it. But there can be like scenarios I haven't thought of here, but just being able to do this, because this has kind of been the quest all along. It's like, how could we just write code and not have to think about reactivity? It kind of just works, right? And this is the closest I've ever gotten to it, because the only thing you need to do is to expose that root state with reactive, and there's no reactive primitives beyond that. So that's really cool. It also ensures that like computed works. So if you do define a getter, it becomes computed under the hood. Another cool thing I was thinking about is that it is possible to like honor immutability. So the count isn't a good example here, but it could be like an object or an array. And it wouldn't actually make them observable when you access them. It would only make the properties themselves observable. And what that ends up in practice is that you have to, like, if you want to add something to an array, you have to assign something new to the property, like a new array. So it's kind of like React, right? Everything's like a new reference. And you could actually enforce that with this mechanism. So I was reflecting on like how some teams has a hard time like flipping between like the mutable object-oriented world and then the immutable functional world of React, and they don't use like mutation methods in state management because like it's just blurry. And that could be a way to kind of give you an object-oriented way to structure your state, and then but still have a mutable state in the same sense that React has a mutable state. But I'm not sure about that. Cool. So I thought maybe we could try to play around with it. So that would be Ja. Nei. Nei. Nå må du være litt sammen med mamsen. Være litt ute. Du har vært ute i 5 minutter. Nei. Jo. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. Men du, nå streamer pappa. Har du det? Ja. Vi går og skifter med mamma, så dere finner på noe. Nei, den er alt for sterk. Nei, den er alt for... Det er ikke lov for barn å drikke den. Den er alt for sterk. Oi, skal jeg hjelpe deg? Du, vent da. Oi, det var stram, ja. Men du, hør på meg nå. Nå skal pappa streame litt. Og så kan du gå opp og skifte og finne på noe artig sammen med mamma. Og så kan vi spille litt til senere i dag. Ok? Ja, gå opp til mamma nå. Ja, ja. Men jeg lover deg at vi to... Nei, det var ikke lov. Det går bra, Oskar. Fuck. I thought I had like an hour now, but it took like fucking 10 minutes and he came back inside. We have an 8-year-old that just spends her whole day just playing with friends and managing her own life. But this 4-year-old, it takes another year before he starts to get like to some degree, what's it called? Self-resilient. So we kind of have to throw him to each other like a freaking ball. Like, okay, I want an hour to do something I want to do now, and now you have to take care of him. Ugh. And then suddenly one day it flips, and he's just outside all day. We don't see him, and then we're gonna miss him like crazy. Life is just one big pile of irony. What were we doing? Oh, Vite demo. Vite demo source. Okay, app to... Oh. Oh yeah, I don't think I've linked it. Oh. Oh, where did I put that? Wait, oh, sorry. I have to install first. There we go. Come on. Do. Oh, you still can't find it? Maybe I have to yarn link. And then here, yarn link, Mobx Lite, yarn dev. Let's try again. There we go. Yeah, so I was playing around with this. Let's see. Yeah, so in this example, let's just do counter count, like as simple as it gets. And you can see I'm now able to, it's not very exciting, is it? Like I'm able to, what we can do, we can actually refactor the actual app thing here. Yeah, maybe we should do that instead because that's way more complex. Yeah, that's what we're gonna do. Let's just delete this and then see if it actually works on this thing. Let's see. Yes, we have to-dos. Oh, come on. So let's say this is reactive, new to-dos. Yeah, it doesn't understand reactive from Mobx Lite. Yeah, it doesn't even, yeah, for some reason. I don't understand why it's able to infer it when I actually have it, but it can't like find it when I, yeah, on the auto suggestion. Anyways, so the to-dos, this is an interesting one. Let's see. So we're going to export class to-dos. We have, oh, look at you just giving me what I need. No, you're definitely not doing that. Okay, so query equals query. And then what's interesting here is that things like fetch to-dos is not like very, that's the thing I kind of miss the most. It's like being able to just say something like, oh, sorry, like this.fetch to-dos or something. So if you want to have private stuff, you kind of have to like do this kind of thing. But these are really utilities. So we could also just move it up here. Fetch to-dos. Let's just do that for now. And then mutation is like add. Yeah, so this one's doing some more stuff. I'm just going to put it inline for now. So that would be mutation. Say sync. It takes a title, right? String. Oh, string. Yeah, this one's interesting. This query. So the thing I really dislike, so that's one thing I kind of miss is like direct reference to functions. But one thing I don't miss is like just the typing, because typing is better in classes. It's kind of, yeah, it's kind of designed for it. So, but you know what? Let's just put everything in line for now. Yeah, we don't need that thing. We can do this. Sorry. Ah, come on. There we go. Add and then remove. Was that was just was that okay, that was just, shouldn't that also be a mutation? It should actually be a mutation. It's not a mutation. Okay. And then we have remove equals mutation async. Yeah, like that. All right. Yeah, so there's no reactive here. So now we have our to-dos. And then there's no test here. Let's see. Where is this stuff coming from? Mutate. Oh, yeah, so I'm using it directly. And why is this wrong? Oh, I should just do new to do. Oh, interesting. Yeah, because I changed that. Oh, yeah. Oh, sorry, this is based on old version. Pending to do 0. Yeah, and this would be const mutate remove to do is remove. And this takes a full on to do. Oh yeah, because it's just, oh yeah, sorry. It's because I simplified it a ton. Okay, let's see if this just works out of the box. I don't think it will. I have a feeling we're gonna find some. Oh yeah, sorry. So main is app. Probably gonna find some errors here, but that gives me a chance to show you the implementation. Maybe I can do that regardless. Oh, interesting. Oh, so we already have an issue. Okay. Execute query. Oh, interesting. That's actually me. I had an error that I fixed in the query. It's very interesting because what we want with our query is that we can't make state changes as we're consuming state, right? And that's really what's happening here. Let's see. And an interesting thing is that we kind of want it to start in a fetching state, but there's nothing to, but we can't actually apply the promise when you actually access like one of the properties of the query. That promise needs to be there because we can't change the state when you start accessing the properties to start the fetch, which is very interesting. So what I did is that I created something called a blocking promise. So when the query initializes, there is a promise there, but that promise is just never resolves. Like it actually resolves when you actually access the properties, but it doesn't resolve the actual promise. It resolves the query, the actual fetching. It's kind of nice how it works. But anyways, that's not what we're trying to fix. Because now we have this execute query, and this is, you see this? It's making a state change, but we can't do that. When do we call execute query? It's on revalidate. The one thing I don't quite understand. Oh yeah, I know what's happening. It's because we're setting the same value. So normally that doesn't trigger observation. But now because we have the read-only proxy. Yeah, I wonder why does it? Yeah, no, it makes sense. I think. Does it? No, wait a minute. This doesn't quite make sense. Why did that happen? Because this state is... Oh, yes, because I am at... Yeah. Oh, sorry. This is, of course, using reactive. Sorry, this shouldn't use reactive. This should use observable. Sorry. The same for a mutation. It shouldn't use... Reactive is something else now. Sorry about that. That's the problem. Let's see now. Oh, it didn't help. Did I build it, Yarn? Oh, sorry. I didn't actually build it. There we go. Okay, I'm scared. Nothing's happening. Why is nothing happening? Like, it has to be very obvious why things aren't working for me to think that this is an actual good idea in the end. But let's look at what's happening here. So, oh, you know what? We do have, yeah, of course we have everything running here. Yeah, no, we should be fine because it didn't have the thing. So is fetching. So that's running, and then, oh, sorry. Then we have our to-dos, and it's new promise, set timeout. After a second, it should resolve. It could be an error with the query, but I didn't think. Thinking. Okay, I'm gonna check the query to see what's happening. Where are you, query? So what's happening here is we're returning the query, and then we're kind of accessing, for example, is fetching. If that's being accessed first, I don't know. But then we're executing the query. By the way, should it be observable? Yeah, I think it should be observable. Anyways, so we have resolve execute query, and then we return state is fetching. But for some reason, when this thing happens, we are applying these state changes and nothing happens. It's almost like, is it observable? What's observable? I'm just gonna double check that I'm not using the wrong observable. Let's see. Usage observable clones an object and makes it observable. Source can be plain, object, array, map, or set. By default, it's applied recursively. Yeah, no, that should work. So it's not that. I just have to check that the query actually resolves itself. So that will be execute query. What? That's weird though. Yeah, so it definitely. I'm also gonna do is fetching. Where's is fetching? I'm just gonna log that state. And it is a proxy. The thing I'm wondering is if we have two different Mobxes here. So we have vdemo. Does it have its own Mobx? Oh, we don't need Bonsify. Oh, and I wanna, let's see. I wanna delete all of this. Oh, bubble. Oh. Guess I shouldn't have fixed that one. Do we have Mobx here? We even have Mobx reactive. This has gone through some changes. Mobx. So Mobx Lite has Mobx. Mobx. Okay. So we don't have duplicate Mobxes. But regardless, I'm going to delete no modules. We're going to do a yarn here. And then I'm going to yarn link Mobx Lite. I find it weird because we're not like doing anything special here. Bonsify? Oh, that sounds like the issue. Oh, look at that. Maybe that was the thing. No. I don't know what's happening. Okay, we need to take a look at this because we are reading things through the dagnagit. So what's happening here? I'm just gonna log out. Accessing key is custom class. Observed keys. Has key. Accessing query, accessing add remove. Okay, so I'm a little bit confused by this because it says that it's accessing the query, but it's not nesting. So is custom class? Oh, that's also interesting. That shouldn't be true. That's false. Oh, okay. This is definitely not correct. I got this from GPT. So that query is not a class. It's just an object. Also ignore plain object if someone... Okay, let's just look at this because I don't exactly know how this works. So let's look at the object. I know. Okay. Jeg kan da, Oskar. Pappa får lov å streame litt først. Har du ikke skiftet ennå? Nei, det må du gjøre. Nei, litt senere. Du må finne på noe sammen med mamma da. Du må finne på noe sammen med mamma da. Ja, men pappa holder fortsatt på med prosjektet sitt. Det er ferdig. Det er ferdig. Ja, når jeg er ferdig med det, så kan vi sikkert... Game med deg. Ja. Etterpå når mamma skal lage middag, da kan vi game. Ok? Ok. Let's see. So, what the hell is this? Accessing query. Oh, that didn't help much. Oh, where were we? Let's see. Yeah, but this is Why does it say accessing? Oh, sorry. Ah, it's me messing up. So of course it's true. It's not looking at the property itself, if that's a class. It's looking at the actual thing, and that, yes, the parent of query is a class. And it's not been added yet, and then it's being added. But the thing I'm confused about is this thing. So console.log. Oh, I know what's happening. Oh. I think it's gonna see that it's a getter. Key getter, because it's a getter, right? And I'm making this assumption that if it has a prototype, oh yeah, and that key, but that doesn't make sense. No, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. But why doesn't it log the I'm accessing is fetching? I don't understand. So I'm returning query, and then I'm accessing is fetching, but that doesn't have a proxy for some reason. So anyways, it's not a getter. What's happening here is that it's returning console. Oh, wait a minute. Create proxy. Does that check? No. What's happening here? So basically, wait, is custom class. Wait, am I looking? What the fuck? Am I looking at the right thing here? Create object proxy is custom class. What was that other stuff? Oh, sorry. If it's not a custom class. Oh, that's why it's not logging it. Oh, now I see. Sorry. So I was just looking at the code for. I should put this into a function. So this whole thing here is how should I do this? This should be like its own thing. How should I do this? Why is this even? Why is this even two different things? This shouldn't be. Oh yeah, because then I have observed. Sorry, I messed up the implementation here. So this is if it's an actual is custom class, because if it's a custom class, it means that we need to observe, like we need a list of the keys that we already observed. So that's fine. And then we do the thing, and then we have this thing. But this is not going to do anything. No, I think this is just gonna, Well, it didn't fix it, but I think we're at the point where, what the fuck, key result. I think this is where we're accessing is fetching. There we go. So it's definitely, oh yeah, and here we're doing get target. Wait a minute. Create object proxy, but the target here is return target is So I need to look at the target. Let's do target key result. Yeah, so it is accessing. Yeah, the Mobx target. And then is fetching. Why doesn't the observer handle this? I am confused. I have a feeling there's something else going on here that I haven't thought of because I'm like refactoring stuff. Let's just create a very simple example first. Let's create the same count to-dos.count on click to-dos increase. And then we're going to go to to-dos. We're going to say count. Ja! Jeg må vente litt. Ja, men jeg trodde mamma skulle lage middag senere. Ja, men du får bare spille, du. Og så... Ok. 2 seconds. Det viser jeg ikke, vet du. Ja. Okay, so the reactivity is definitely working. So there's something else going on here. Let's see. I find it really weird though, because it shouldn't matter how we access that proxy. That should track. The only thing I can imagine is that no, because it's the same Mobx. Ja! Du må la meg få holde på noe, Oskar. No, it's just an expectation thing. I had an expectation I would get an hour to do this. And that expectations is a parent's worst enemy. It truly, truly is. Because it controls, like, you know, having expectations normally isn't a problem because you're like very good at predicting things, especially when you don't have like random stuff happening all the time. Like when you don't have kids, your day is very predictable. So when you have expectations, like they usually met, like just everyday expectations, right? Not the kinds of, oh, I'm going on this amazing vacation, but just everyday expectations. Like I'm gonna wake up tomorrow, I'm gonna get my coffee, I'm gonna eat breakfast, I'm gonna read a little bit before I go to work. Like those kinds of everyday expectations, they are they don't happen when you're a parent with small children. So you can imagine like how disappointed you get when that amazing vacation doesn't meet your expectations. You kind of get the same feeling on like, oh, I didn't get my coffee this morning because like our 4-year-old went into total collapse and having a rant kind of thing. Anyways, I'm diverging. Why? What were we doing? We were looking at is fetching and why, for some reason, Mobx doesn't trigger this, and it doesn't make any sense because this is not about Is it because of the reflect get? Like, I'm not sure exactly what happens on reflect get as opposed to, because the interesting thing is like we're actually accessing the, okay, we're just gonna do just for fun. We're just gonna do target key, just access it normally just to see if that changes anything. Oh, whatever. No, it doesn't change anything. Why doesn't it work? I'm in the component, I'm accessing an observable, and that observable changes. Why isn't that working? But another thing is, oh, I think I know what it is. It's the suspense. Oh, you know what? I think it's the, is it the suspense? I think it's the suspense that doesn't resolve. I think maybe I know what it, that's weird because I made a fix on this and it worked in my app. Why didn't it work here? Because I have this blocking promise. So I'm wondering if this is the thing that doesn't resolve. Wait a minute, I'm not using suspense, am I? Maybe that's the reason. Yeah, sorry, no, I'm not using suspense. That doesn't make any sense. Okay, I'm completely in the dark about this. Because we just have like a plain old observable. We're grabbing that, we're accessing that observable during render. And then that state changes. And for some reason, it doesn't update. Like, let's look at this thing. I'm very confused by this. Huh? Is fetching. Wait. It even says false. Oh, and then it goes back to true. Oh, interesting. Interesting. Okay, so that's what's happening. Ja. Nei. Nei. Jeg holder på med noe, skal jeg? Hæ? Nei, jeg holder på med noe. Må vente nå. God damn. Okay, so this is what's happening. It just goes back to true for some reason. So let's figure out why it does that. Why does it go back to true? Thinking. What could cause it to go back to true? And I have a feeling that's like our to-dos has something to do with that. But these are just mutations. Why does it go back to is fetching true? Let's just look at where it changes. Is fetching true. And this is when we call fetch. When we subscribe. Wait, is it strict mode? Get element, render app. No, we're not even using strict mode. I'm confused. I wonder what's causing it to go back to is fetching true. Let's see if it's this one. Yeah, you know what? Let's just remove the subscription and see if that's what's causing it. This is so weird. No, I don't have to build it again. Oh, look at that. It's the subscription that causes it. Okay, so, sorry, this is a bug with the query. This has nothing to do with the whole thing. Refetch works. Toggle works. Revalidate happens in the background. Test, adding test. Everything's working. It's just a subscribe thing. Let's take a look at it. So I must have made a boo-boo with the subscribe. And actually, I'm not happy about that subscribe thing because it doesn't really explain to you why it works that way. The whole thing is to invalidate on unmount. That's the thing it's going to do. The problem, though, is... oh, you know what? Maybe we should just call it invalidate. And then we don't actually immediately... Oh... We don't actually immediately, we just change the internal state to idle. So the next time you try to access it, then it's gonna... Oh, yeah, but the problem is we can't just change the internal state. We also need to do this. And the problem, like, okay, so the reason we didn't just do invalidate is that there is a chance that you're looking at the query in two different components. And if one of those components unmount and we call invalidate, it's going to cause that other component to also yeah, it's basically going to go into fetching again. Which is going to be confusing. So the way I thought about that is like, okay, we need to subscribe to the query so that if there is another subscriber when you're trying to invalidate, it won't actually invalidate it so that the UI doesn't jank. But what's happening here for some reason is that I'm calling... I'm a little bit confused by this. So it's subscribing and then it's unsubscribing. Why does it unsubscribe? Is that a bug in the proxy thing? Because we're just binding the function. Well, let's remove this one. Yeah, why does it actually unsubscribe at all? But subscribe is a bad name. It should be invalidate, like invalidation subscription or something. Yeah, maybe. So what would be the worst case here is like two different components is looking at the query and then one of them unmounts. Like it's kind of a weird scenario. But it could happen. I guess we could use Mobx here as well. Kind of like look at I think you can get like the number of observers at any point in time of an observable. So what we could do is do that and kind of like look at the state, and is anyone else observing it? We won't invalidate. But yeah, I'm first of all, I'm curious why the heck is it actually? Oh, is it because the subscribe changes? Oh, what if I remove this? Oh, look at that. So subscribe is actually changing reference. Oh, because I'm binding the thing. Oh my God, that's it. That's so fascinating. Okay. That's so fascinating. So whenever you look at a function, I'm binding it. I didn't see that. And that actually creates a new function reference. Oh, that's interesting. So the actual thing is here in reactive. You see this? I'm binding to the target, but that creates a new function. Oh, that's not good. You know what? That means that we actually need to, that also needs to be, okay, so first of all, we shouldn't do anything here. So this is, we're just gonna do that. So this, we shouldn't do it at all here, but we should make sure that functions are also actually, oh, that's interesting. Because we need to bind them to the target. Oh, this, I think I can have one more glass. I have to be a little bit careful with this, with alcohol and kids. You can't get like, yeah, you have to be careful. Yeah, I can imagine like kids growing up with parents that are like alcoholics. Yeah, that's not good. How are we going to solve this? So the point is we can't create a new binding every time. But what we want to do, we kind of want to do the same thing as we're doing here, observed keys. And I think we basically just have to have bound methods. We have to make that a record of string and function. And we need to do bound methods key equals bound methods key or result of bind target. That's what we have to do. So let's see now. Let's make sure that we still have that thing. Okay, so now it should work. And it does. Amazing. Interesting. Okay, but this is great. Like this is working. I feel confident about the approach. Maybe there is like some other edge case, but the cool thing is that we have a more efficient reactive system because we don't make like, we have all these classes and we don't just run through them and make everything observable. Like we only make things observable by what we access at the property level, which is really cool. Like it doesn't matter for like performance or anything like that, but it's interesting. Yeah. What would be our next step here? I think it would be to, like, I want to do this because I don't want to have, like, the whole concept of Mobx Lite was like, yeah, this, like, you had to choose functional or class-based, like object-oriented. I don't like that. Like, if I were to, like, from the perspective of actually contributing with something, one thing is just playing around with all this and exploring and trying out things and just learning. But if I actually am going to contribute with something, it's finding a scope and like a core value. And I don't think like even just doing automatic observation, it doesn't matter. Like it's not like making things 90% better. It's like you're making things 5 to 10% better, in the sense that when you're looking at your code, you're just looking at the code. You don't, especially with observers, you're forced to define your components in a different way. So you're kind of just cleaning up the code, which is more, it doesn't reduce bugs probably. It doesn't make it like noticeably more performant. It's just cleaning up your code so that you can just write code and focus on the problem and don't have to think about that you're in a reactive system or anything like that. And that it has value. It doesn't have like major value, but it has value. And you know, often these like last 10%, 5-10% is the thing that makes something appealing. Because all these state management tools, they are like trying to solve the same, at least domain of problems. So it's nice to kind of just get away from any kind of abstraction. That's the thing I have the biggest issue with, is abstractions. I really just want to write components as functions and then consume whatever I need, and it's going to be performant, and then write my state management without like primitives and stuff. Just write JavaScript. And this is the closest thing I've ever gotten to that does that. Oh, look at me jumping into Zoom. Cool. Yeah, I don't have time to like jump into anything new, but what I think, well, at least I can show you. I actually been working on I have been working on the Family Scrum app. Do I have you here? Family Scrum. Family Scrum. Let's see. Git pull. I'm not sure if can I just do yarn dev? So that's 5174. Oh, get started HTML. That's wrong. Here we go. It's actually starting to look pretty okay. So we have like add new to do. Looks pretty nice. And then I fixed. Oh, I didn't add. This is going to be fun. So it's very interesting. We kind of have this. Oh, what's happening here? This looks a little bit weird. Let me change this to like iPhone. Okay. So yeah, this is like, it doesn't push it to the edge here. Whatever. So you kind of have this, can I zoom this in? Oh yeah, no, that's I can't really zoom this. Oh, interesting. Anyways, hopefully you kind of see it here. Can I, oh wait, there we go. There we go. So I have this list of groceries, right? But they're random, or they're sorted by when they were created. But they're not ordered in a way that makes sense for, oh, do I have to run? Oh shit, I can't show it. But the point is, when you go over and click go into shopping mode, is that actually going to keep the mobile screen on, and then it uses AI to go and sort the groceries by a grocery store layout. So you kind of get them in order, grouped together, and also the order of like a typical grocery store. So you kind of get vegetables and fruits first. At least that's how it is in Norway. And then you kind of get like dairy products, and then meat and fish, frozen beverages, and then household stuff, wellness stuff, and then candy stuff. That's always by the register, right? That's really cool. That's a thing a cool way to use AI, I think. I mean, I worked on the checklists, and they look pretty okay. Like, I'm not following any. It's kind of all over the place, but yeah. And then we just have plan next week that we need to kind of design, and then I'm gonna kind of ship it, update it, and play with it. But of course, we need to refactor the whole thing to the new Mobx Lite. So that's gonna be fun. Yeah. But yeah, I like this. I like what we've been doing here. Ja, I come in. Okay, the 4-year-old wants to play Rocket League. I'm gonna play a match with him before dinner, and then I think the next thing. Yeah, yeah, exactly. So, like, I've had like a lot to do with Mobx over the years. So, like, the first kind of real state management tool I made was Cerebral, and it actually used Mobx state tree under the hood. And then I've always been like Mobx has always kind of appealed to me conceptually, and I've used it for other projects as well, also like explorations. And like Michelle, who made Mobx, is just an awesome person. Who's trying to like make developer experiences better. But Mobx Lite is, yeah, as you say, it's targeted for, and that's the thing I wanted to check, by the way, before we drop off here, because I think there's an overwhelming amount of people that uses React compared to other packages. What's that service? Service compare npm packages. I can't remember the thing. npm trends. Is that the thing? No, I don't. Bundlephobia. No. Is it npm trends? Can I? Yeah, exactly. I can add more pack. Yeah, this is the one. So Mobx view. Yeah, Mobx view Lite. Yeah. So you kind of Mobx svelte Mobx. I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And this is the thing. So exactly. And I completely agree with this. So if I were to like create something new that kind of appeals to me personally, I wouldn't do this, right? Because it's like, it's class based. I prefer functional, and so on and so on. But if I want to actually contribute with something that I think has like, that has like a broader, like it's almost like I kind of gotten more. So I think the one experience that really made me rethink my open source contributions was when I made a typing fix for style components that actually made the typing experience. Ja, jeg kommer snart, Oskar. Vent litt. That made the typing experience so much better. That it reduced from feeling being instant, like it it was like you were kind of waiting for it like half a second or something, and then it became instant. And I was thinking like, how many developers aren't using style components, and how much time am I not like saving in the world? Compute, like how much electricity am I not saving in the world, but just doing this like tiny little thing that took me like 5 minutes to fix. So that's how I think about contributions now. It's not like trying to create like my own vision of how I would want to do things. I'm not saying that's not like valuable, but maybe more valuable as like there you have to. Yeah, I don't know. My point is like doing something like Mobx Lite, I know has a big audience that can get a better developer experience. So it has like more value in that sense. While like introducing yet another state management tool has a much smaller audience. And it's not about being popular, it's about impact, like real valuable impact. That said, I'm still thinking about like Overmind, and the thing about Overmind is that it has such an amazing developer tooling. Like the dev tools of Overmind is Overmind. Or that's the thing I'm reflecting on. Is like, what is the actual value of Overmind? Is it like the actual dev tools and how you get this like insane insight? Yeah, I think that's that. But this is the thing. Like again, going back to Overmind, is like what makes Overmind so great? Is it the dev tools? Is it that you are able to create actions where you use the root state effects and actions as like there's such a strong mental model of state actions and effects, and you always have them available? Is that what makes it great? Is it that you don't have observer components, so you just use the hook and the component becomes an observer? And maybe it's like a combination of all of these things. But it's not clear to me like what would the next iteration of Overmind be? I'm very confident it would need to have a dev tool because that was the thing about Cerebral as well, having the dev tool. So the dev tool is a definite part of it. But then like what's the bad parts about Overmind that could get some improvements? And if I were to do like another iteration on it, I'm not confident about like removing things that doesn't matter. Yeah, state machines, yeah. But I would really love to like double down on Overmind and like, okay, what's great about Overmind? What's not so great about Overmind? And how could we like design something that takes the good parts of Overmind, and what constraints appear? Because it needs to, for example, the dev tools. If the dev tools is going to be the single state tree, you're going to show the actions. You're going to even be able to see the effects. That creates some kind of constraints to how you can like move on to the next thing. And could it still use proxy state tree? We'll just change the Surface API to make it like more modern. So yeah, it's I am, especially now that we kind of, well, I guess you have put like there's a spark in Overmind still, and also just getting this feedback, like people talking about like using Overmind and really loving it. It would be very interesting to do like kind of a survey and just ask people what makes Overmind appeal so strongly to them, and what parts creates friction for them. Like make it a product development kind of thing. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Because I really like, and I think it would be interesting. I tried this once before. Like, think about the actual dev tool experience, and then you build the code implementation from that. That's really interesting. Ja, Oskar? Hæ? Ok, jeg kommer nå. Okay, but yeah, I would love to. So Mobx Lite is definitely like, okay, there's a big group of people using Mobx. Mobx is old. It deserves like a reimagining, and this is like a suggestion on doing that, which improves the developer experience of Mobx. But it, as we talked about, it does embrace classes, object oriented for state management versus doing like functional components. But that's for that group of people. It's the Adam people. And then there's Overmind, which is more like functional and has this insane developer tool that you can never build with Mobx, right? Because Mobx is just a bunch of observable values hidden in classes. Like, you couldn't build a tree out of that. You couldn't build the Overmind dev tools on top of Mobx. So there's definitely something, and it also doesn't have a strong sense of state actions and effects, which I also think is really, really nice about Overmind. So you have the dev tools, you have a strong concept of state actions and effects, and then maybe the utilities, like the state utilities. It's being state machines, it being the operators. Like, I really enjoyed using the operators. There were like certain scenarios where they just fucking ruled. And then we have this new Corian mutation thing for data management that was never applied to Overmind, because this happened way later than Overmind. So maybe those are kind of the three things. And then the question becomes, okay, how do you package all of that in something that's performant and kind of makes sense in the code? Maybe proxy state tree is a good candidate. But for me, like the issue with Overmind is the actions. Because they are, I think it's better to like keep your actions with your state. And also being able to define like private functionality. Like, you can't define private functionality in Overmind. You have to like use a naming convention to make things private, which is also weird to me. Where in classes you would use a keyword for that, like private, but in a functional world you would need a function scope. But I think that's the appealing thing about Overmind. It's all just a tree. The state is a tree, the actions is a tree. How do you make things private in a tree? Yeah, anyways, just dumping thoughts. Thanks for the input on this. This helps me like kind of settle my brain as well. Like, Mobx Lite is about helping existing Mobx developers maybe get to like, okay, let's just move to the next thing. Like, Mobx is old. There's a better developer experience with Mobx. And then how could we like take the perspective and mindset of Overmind and bring that into the future, kind of thing. But I don't have a clear idea about that. But it would be very yeah, so Bonsify has been like a really good research project. And that could be like a way to, but I don't think the problem with Bonsify is that it would be very hard to build a dev tool on top of it. Because it's so flexible. You just have this function scope. So maybe there's something between Bonsify and the existing Overmind that kind of gives you the scope of after like having a function scope, but still act as a state tree, kinda. If that makes sense. Yeah, the actions replacement. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I have a 4-year-old who's craving a match on Rocket League, so I'm just gonna play with him. But thanks a bunch for the input, and I hope to get this Mobx Lite thing to a place where, okay, let's just get it to a point where, okay, it's worth shipping. Like, it's not a complex implementation. There seems to be real value here for Mobx users, at least as an inspiration, that Mobx can like evolve with the community, and then when we kind of leave that alone, we can like refocus on the Overmind and how can we take that further with that mindset and dev tools and everything. Yeah. Have a great weekend. We'll speak soon. Bye for now.